Welcome to Canada's podcast. Hi, I'm Phil Bliss, founder and co-host of Canada's podcast, coming to you today from Toronto. Today, we're going to meet Alicanjeta, AJ, who's CEO of Market Circle, a CRM company, very well established. So without further ado, let's meet AJ. So, AJ, welcome to Canada's podcast. Market Circle, obviously, it's been your focus for a couple of decades.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about the venture, why you started it, what its future might be. And then, we'll get back to your journey. Okay.
So I started Market Circle because I always had an itch to be an entrepreneur and or to have a business, something like that. Maybe not an entrepreneur, that word, but to have a business or to be in a business. And one day I was sitting and watching this documentary on eBay. And I said to myself, well, how many people actually do auctions? More people actually negotiate. Why don't I do something where people can negotiate for a product? How hard could it be? And so that started me on my journey to creating Market Circle. We evidently pivoted a few times, and today we're in the SaaS business with native apps and cloud native apps with the cloud backed infrastructure. So so that's where we are today. But it didn't start this way.
Okay, so let's get back to your journey in particular. What motivated you to become an entrepreneur? How did you get into your area of expertise?
So maybe my family background is a little bit a bit of a contributor, although I'm not sure. So, my parents were always in the family business, which was founded by my grandfather. And this was in Africa, in Uganda and in the Congo. And when we got expelled from those countries, sure. and then went back.
I'm old enough to remember that.
Yeah. So my wife was 2 months old when she had to leave, and I was 4 years old when I had to leave. So, but in that process, we always had businesses. There were shops, like they were not huge enterprise kinds of things. But there were shops and so forth. So we always had the thing, okay, we want to run our own business. We want to kind of hopefully control our own destiny, so to speak. And so that since I've been a little kid, has always been part of our family. And so for myself, it was always, I guess it was an expectation, but I'm also drawn to it. Like that's what I enjoy. That's who I enjoy hanging around with. That's what I enjoyed, the challenges that we face and so forth. So not only did I get in, but I stayed in.
Yeah. So, I think speaking to kind of younger, entrepreneurs, one of the big questions is, how the heck can I finance it? How do I get, I really have this idea. How do I get it rolling? How does it do? Have you got anything that you can, as I said, you're over 2 decades in the business, you pivoted. Yeah. There are times, I'm sure, when cash flow was not where you wanted it.
Absolutely.
Is there some advice that you can pass on in terms of financing, building that kind of side of the business?
I can share what happened in my situation. So in my situation, when I decided to start Market Circle, I was already doing some consulting work. So I had a little bit of flexibility in my time, in the sense that, I'm not afraid to work. I can work 16, 17, 18 hours a day, no problem. And it doesn't bother me. Right. So I had the flexibility of having that consulting job. And so I started the business kind of on the side, and I raised some friends and family money. So sister, cousins, friend of a friend, kind of thing. And that's how I got the initial pool to start Market Circle. Of course, with my consulting flexibility, I was able to do consulting work for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and then work on the business another 5, 6, 7, 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like how I bootstrap. But beyond that, friends and family money, I was never able to actually land investors.
Mm-hmm.
I had to basically be really scrappy and work with what I had, because when I tried to raise money, either maybe I'm not such a great salesman, I wasn't able to actually close those deals. Even back in the .com days, when what we started was a negotiation thing, I managed to get to some of the top VCs in Silicon Valley, but I wasn't able to close the deal. It didn't help that I was there when the bubble burst. But
So was I.
yeah, so May of 2000 is where everything started to implode, and that's when I was in Draper Fisher Juvitson's office trying to make a pitch. Didn't turn out so well. So I was never actually able to raise money, even with the banks. I struggle with raising money. So it's always been a scrappy kind of, okay, if I'm not going to get money this way, what am I going to do? What are some of the decisions I'm going to make that I can get some money and then reinvest that money. So it's always been one of those kinds of things for me. Mm-hmm. I think nowadays the environment is a lot more open to the idea of people investing. And so my advice to people, like if they ask me today, is like, hey, put a 1, 2, 3 page, not a 100-page, but 1, 2, 3 page kind of business idea, business proposal, and go and ask, go and do a little bit of networking and ask people like, who do they know that would invest in this kind of a venture, and go from there and just do that networking so that you can find somebody that is hopefully compatible with what you want to do. And get that money. So I don't have, concrete, because I've never actually been able to land that kind of money.
Well, that's that's good, in as much as it's bad in the sense that you don't land that kind of money, you end up owning more of the company.
Yeah.
And that's the balance you got to make. That's really it. So the other thing that's really important to me is mentorship. Okay, what do you in terms of mentors, is there somebody that sort of, advised you, told you something, and you've been carrying it in your pocket ever since, and pull it out when it never leaves you, basically? Is there something like that?
It's interesting. So I've had a few of those incidents, some of those from my sister, some of those from people that I've encountered. And there was this one time I was, I think, I don't know, 15, 16, 17, somewhere around there. And I was working in a automotive shop, part-time job while going to school, kind of thing. And this one fellow there, I don't remember his name. I think his name was Calvin. Just told me, my thing was I need to do as many of these things as possible. I was putting sunroofs in, as many of these things as possible. And he was a bit slower, and but his quality was better. And he told me this line that has stuck with me is, if you do something, do it well, or don't do it at all. And so that, that always resonates with me. It's sometimes in conflict with the entrepreneurial, scrappy kind of, I don't have money, what do I got to do? I got to cut some corners here a little bit. But that line always sticks with me, and I repeat it to my son, for example. If you're going to do something, do it well, or don't do it at all.
And going back in time, if you could sort of advise yourself, say 25 years ago, what would you tell yourself to do or not to do?
I would tell myself to to be true to myself. And let me explain that, because a lot of times you'll get advice that is not necessarily true to who you are. So I'll give you an example. One of them is, hey, you're running the business. You got to, up in the morning early, 4:30 a.m., 5:30 a.m. You should wake up so you're ready for, for the day, kind of thing. And so I tried to do that, but that's just not me. I'm a nighttime person. My most productive time used to be, not anymore now that I'm older, but when I was younger, my most productive time was from 11 p.m. to like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. Right? That's when I would be like
never done that. I'm a morning person.
Yeah, and in the morning I'm a zombie, but I try to kind of follow the general advice out there that, hey, you should be, as you're running the company, you should be there in the morning, get things going, et cetera. And that's just not me. And so for the years, I try to fight that. And so I wasn't as productive as I should have been, or I was. And so that's an example of when I tell people, you got to understand yourself, be true to yourself. And as long as you're productive in accomplishing your goals, that's your metric kind of thing to say, okay, I'm moving forward, I'm doing things, and I'm accomplishing things, and I don't necessarily have to, be like what everybody else tells me what I should be like. Mm-hmm. Of course, when you have kids and you got to take them to school in the morning, that's a whole different story. But but in terms of productivity, for somebody like me who actually was in the nitty gritty, coding and stuff like that.
So how do you maintain your focus? I mean, you've been building this business for a long time. Mm-hmm. How do you keep focused on the growth side of it, and all, not just the growth, satisfaction, all of those other elements?
It's difficult. It's difficult, and it comes in ebbs and flows. There are times that if I look back in the last couple of decades that I wasn't as focused as I should have been, mm-hmm. Because I was maybe a little bit lost. I didn't know which way was up, until I kind of regrounded myself and that's right. This is what actually gives me energy. Mm-hmm. On we go. But so I never want to paint a picture that it's a smooth straight line kind of thing. In terms of that, it's ebbs and flows. There's always down times, and there's always like these other times where you're just humming, right? Mm-hmm. And so the question really is, what brings you back when you're one of these troughs? What gets you back out, and what are the crutches that you use to kind of lift you up? And for me, it's some of the customer stories. Like, we built this product to help small business grow, and when I hear some of these customers and I talk to them after a while that they've been customers and they've actually grown, that gives me energy, right? So that's one of the sources of energies. Some other source of energy is when I'm able to focus on something for a couple of weeks without any distractions. So, block things up, pretend I'm on vacation and focus on something. And then that gives me energy. So these are these crutches that I've learned about myself, that I've used to get out of those troughs when they do occur, because they do occur.
So let's go to yourself. I mean, if you had to pick one word to describe yourself, maybe two words or whatever, to describe yourself, what would it be and why?
So I have two words. One of them is a little unusual, and the first one is symbiotic. And the second one is resilience. Mm-hmm. And symbiotic, whenever you're looking at any kind of like a business, we're about a little under 50 people and all that. So as a business, we're a symbiotic creature, right? Like, mm-hmm. I can't do what I do without the other people. And so it's a symbiotic relationship between me making my commitment to make sure that they're making a good living, and then the reverse where they're producing for me in whatever thing that they're doing. And so that's an example. Another example is the human body. The human body is a symbiotic organism
Mm-hmm.
with different organs, working with other organs to kind of, present who we are, or manifest who we are. So that's one of the reasons I like that. I tend to like system level thinking. And so symbiotic is a word that I always come back to. And the other one, resilience. And resilience goes to the fact that, in life, you always get knocked down. And it's not the fact that you get knocked down. It's not the fact that you're down. It's the fact that you get back up. Right. And to me, that's where resilience comes in.
So I see lots of books behind you.
Mm-hmm.
What books are you reading now? In terms of the business side of things.
So I'm actually reading sometimes I have multiple copies of books because I buy a book and then I don't have time to read it. And then I go and I go, this is a good book. And I buy it again. So I have two books of No Rules, the Netflix book by Reed Hastings. And so I'm reading that a little bit about, and I'm finding actually fascinating about how there's some really not counterintuitive, but counter mainstream thoughts there in terms of company culture. So that's the one I'm currently reading. But I tend to not read one book at a time. I'll have like 10 books on the go, and I'll be reading a chapter here and a chapter there, and so I also rarely read a book cover to cover. But I get, I end up going back to the same book several times.
What's the best thing about being an entrepreneur versus being, something else?
I think it's the ability to control the choices you make and being accountable to yourself, and they're both, it's a double-edged sword, right? Okay, you're accountable to yourself, which means if you don't perform, that's on you, right? And so the ability to have that flexibility to make those choices to solve bigger problems, and so yeah, so that, I don't know if I answered that question effectively.
Okay, that's okay. What's the best thing? What are you most excited about in your business these days?
So it's a good question. I every once in a while you kind of ask yourself, like, why are you doing this, right? And it's really the same as that was from before, when we made this particular product, which is Daylight, which is, we wanted to do something to help ourselves be organized so that we could grow. And so now we're doing it for our customer, for other people, and who become our customers. And that's still, to me, something that I wake up for in the morning. I also like building things, so I wake up for that. So that's what keeps me excited. As boring as that sounds, or it hasn't changed much in all the years from when I started the business to where I am today.
I think, from my perspective, there's about one thing that a couple of things I want to kind of fun things.
Mm-hmm.
You've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
So I presume you like it.
Yes.
What kind of job would you not like to do?
Right. Good question. Good question. So in in trying to understand myself, or build the company in a way that's enjoyable to me, I've had to learn what I'm not good at and what I don't like to do, and have other people that love to do that job.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not an operations person, right? I'm not a process person. I'm more on the creative side.
Mm-hmm.
So those things are run by other people in our business.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I kind of deal with this fact that I'm a little bit different. And so the things that I don't like to do, or I'm not good at, once I identify that I'm not good at them, it's pretty easy because I'm not good at many things. I tend to hopefully find somebody that can do that job way better than I can.
And let's go back to the word thing, because I love it, because it ends up you found out a lot more. In business, what's your favorite word? Quote, it can be phrase or whatever. And what's your least favorite word? And it kind of, I think it gives us a reflection of your
So,
business.
so my least favorite word is can't and but. um, or because usually when you have some kind of idea you want to do something, they'll be like but we can't do it because of this, or we and so there is that you're always fighting against that. So I hate those words. Or let me, hate's a strong word, but I strongly dislike those words.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of in terms of my favorite words is, tell me more, why not, how can we do this, like what are the options. Those are my kind of favorite kind of things that I like to hear in our conversations, because there are many possibilities and ideas, and uh, having those words to trigger those conversations are words that I like.
So you said you worked overnight. You used to. So what does the first part of your day look like now in terms of the business perspective?
So nowadays, so my kids are older. They're 17 and 13. So the 17-year-old, they're at both of the same school. So the 17-year-old drives, so I don't have to do that anymore in the morning. Although sometimes, most of the times, my wife would take them. But in the mornings, I'm usually a bit lethargic. I'm slow to wake up. Not that I'm not awake, but I'm not like I'm not buzzing in the morning.
Yeah.
So usually I'll check for any emergencies, then I'll take it easy in the morning. And by the time I get down to, this amazing commute that we have now with COVID, from upstairs to downstairs, I'm here, sitting here by 9:30, 10 a.m. I'm not here like at 8 a.m. There are odd times when, there's something happening that I got to be here and prep earlier, but majority of the time it's a, 9:30-ish kind of thing. And I'm trying to move it to 9, but it's proving difficult. It used to be 11:30.
And I'm here at 6:30, so I find it really, and it's great. I don't know what it is about that the cycle, but it's really interesting how people.
Yeah, there is there's a Matt Walker the sleep guy that has a few YouTube videos on explaining the circadian rhythm, and I don't know, there is an explanation for why certain people are morning people and other people are not morning people.
AJ, I'm looking at the time. We're over our time, and that's fine. It's been really, really interesting meeting you. I hope you've enjoyed it. And
yes, I have, and it's been an honor being here with you. I really appreciate what you've been doing with this podcast, and it's really inspirational. I listened to a whole bunch of them. I recommend anybody to listen to a whole bunch of them because it's quite inspirational. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, AJ. Great having you on Canada's podcast.
Thank you.